Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video.
I'm male 17, mom, dad, male 45, and my stepmother, Lainey, female 45, all come from the same background. They grew up together in Albuquerque, went to the same high school and college, and for a short while even worked in the same company. Despite this close connection of sorts, the trio only went beyond being casual acquaintances together in college. When mom started dating dad, before this, Lainey's parents and my grandparents on my mom's side were close friends, but that was about it. In college, their bond grew and they did everything together. However, I had heard from my parents that there was a really awkward phase in the middle where they became a throuple. TMI, to be honest. But my parents used to overshare about everything. This was kind of okay at first, but like Lainey got a little too attached to dad and tried to cut mom out of the relationship altogether. This wouldn't fly, and they set boundaries and broke things off with Lainey. It hurt their friendship, but Lainey got over it by the time they graduated. As I said, they were even working in the same company for a while, and things were completely cool between them. Mom and Dad got married around this time, and soon little old me popped out. I'm an only child. But I was raised right by Mom and Dad, and honestly don't have a single problem with them. Unlike most of the posts on Reddit, my parents weren't narcissists and maniacs. IMAO. However, when I was around 10 years old, Mom was diagnosed with bone cancer. This was a shock to everyone involved, and due to the advanced stage of her illness, it was pretty much certain that it would be fatal. Mom, during this time, was the strongest, most amazing woman ever, and she made sure to make amazing memories with me and Dad that we could cherish after she passed. Thankfully, she was with us for 3 years. We went on a trip to Yellowstone before her health worsened, and I'll always remember that fondly. To cherish her memory, Dad and I kept a bunch of her stuff. These are little things like a baby scrapbook she made for me, her old vinyl records, she was a collector, souvenirs from Yellowstone, and a bunch of pictures. We even have 2 letters she wrote for us, one for Dad to open when he turns 50, and one for me when I turn 18. I know all of this might sound like a bit much, but Dad and I keep these items with a healthy attachment. And it's not like we've built a shrine to Mom like a bunch of weirdos. They're just things that make us feel nice. It's been 4 years since Mom passed away, and Dad and I live alone in the house right now. It was obviously a little lonely, and for the first 3 years, Dad wasn't ready to move on or even think about dating anyone. However, he met Lainey again completely by chance at a local Whole Foods. It was definitely out of the blue for him, as they had lost touch with her after I was born, and according to Dad, the last he had heard about her was that she lived out of state. However, upon catching up, she revealed that she'd moved back in with her parents for a little while. Having quit her job and invested her savings into a business she ran out of her parents' garage. Tough to explain, but it was kind of like homemade accessories and stuff sold throughout the internet. It was comfortable for Dad to talk to her due to their history, and they ended up becoming friends. Quite quickly, though, it moved beyond friendship and they started dating. I won't lie, I wasn't sure about Lainey as a person, but seeing how happy my dad was, I wanted to at least give her respect. Besides, it's not as if she completely replaced Mom in Dad's mind. We still talked about her and cherished her memories fondly together. All in all, I took it as a positive, although I wasn't ready to consider Lainey as my new mom. The only problem I had with her was that she often used to make faces or act moody whenever she visited our house and asked about a knick-knack on our mantel or anything really that was related to Mom. But she never did anything about it, and I hoped that she would understand why we, as a family, kept those items with us. Apart from that hiccup, Dad and Lainey's relationship moved fast and they got married within a year. Although they had wanted to move in before the marriage, it took a lot of time for us to figure out how to set up a space for Lainey and her business, and it got delayed until after the wedding. In a way, it was going to be kind of ceremonious that she moved in with us a day after the wedding. Once she was ready, we had our first homemade dinner together to celebrate, and at the table, Dad casually brought up the fact that my birthday was in a month. I perked up a bit, and I think I said something like, "I'm excited to open the letter Mom gave me." Lainey asked us about it, and we mentioned the 2 letters. She said, kind of snarkily, "Letters? Piles of records? You guys keep a lot of things from your past. Babe, am I more or less important than her?" We awkwardly laughed it off, and Dad said, "Come on, don't be like that. You know that you're my priority right now. I mean, it's just something that OP is excited about for his birthday, nothing else." I could tell that Lainey was seething internally, but she decided to put a lid on it for dinner. After dinner, I went up to my room in the attic and decided to stay up for a late-night Velo session. I usually play until 2 to 3 a.m. on weekends, but I was startled when I walked down to get some water. The door to the backyard was open and there was a glow coming from outside. I walked out to see what was going on, and Lainey was burning all of Mom's stuff in our backyard grill. Everything flammable was going into the fire. I could see Mom's records lying shattered on the grass, and without even thinking about it, I tackled Lainey to the ground. She began screaming, and in the commotion, Dad woke up. When he came downstairs and looked at the scene, his face turned as white as a sheet. I don't even think he had any idea how to process this. On the iron garden table next to the grill, there was a cardboard box filled with paper shreds, ready to be dumped. I began screaming at Lainey and let her have it. This was the most insane thing I had seen in my life, and I would have probably called the cops on her if it wasn't for Dad. He said, deathly quiet, "Leave, now," while looking at Lainey, and she began to beg and plead. She said she'd always loved Dad more than Mom, and she even shouted, "I shouldn't have to compete with a dead woman." I'm devastated. I can't believe one tiny trigger about my excitement over the letter would lead to this. She said that our behavior was toxic and unhealthy, and she was doing us a favor by getting rid of these holdovers from the past. Dad did end up calling the cops, and they ended up taking her away. As the morning came, he immediately called his lawyer and decided to terminate the marriage. The loss of all our memories with Mom had hit him hard. I think he just wanted Lainey out of his life, and that would be the end of the story. Me, though, I was out for revenge. I wanted to make Lainey's life hell after this point. Her sullen, sulky face showed up outside our house in a few weeks, ready to grab her things and move back in with her parents. I offered to let her use our truck and said I'd drive her over to her parents. As I pulled into the driveway, Lainey got out of the passenger seat and went to open the door. I watched her parents come out, and they began to make idle chat with me from some distance. Her dad said, it's a shame it didn't work out, kid. Lainey told me that Hugh, Dad's name, isn't over your mother's death. It's okay, she was an amazing kid, and her parents are also more beaten up about it than they let on, even to us." Had Lainey not told her parents what she'd done? Of course not. So I took it upon myself to snap back at them. "Yeah, it's going to be tough to get over it when your daughter has stolen everything we had as a memory." With that, I reversed out of the driveway and floored it. I knew that half of Lainey's stuff was still in the truck bed, and we hadn't even fastened anything properly. And while I'd been talking to her parents, she had opened the tailgate. So everything fell out and was strewn over the ground. Good riddance, to be honest. I got home and went up to my room, but Dad came in a few hours later telling me Lainey had called and cussed him out. He did give me a half-hearted scolding, but I think he secretly appreciated what I had done. The biggest fallout of my actions, though, was that Lainey's parents also called Dad and found out the full story. Needless to say, they were horrified by their daughter's actions and couldn't fathom her behavior against the memory of someone she had grown up with. They had a confrontation with her, asking her to apologize for her actions, and when she refused, kicked her out. She's got to shut down her business and go back to working now, as any apartment she can afford doesn't have the space she needs. She posted about it on her business site, and a bunch of people is calling me out for being a douchebag, although they don't know the full story. Was I too aggressive in the end? Maybe I should have just left it at kicking her out of the house. Update 1. Okay, I read some of your comments, and due to how toxic people online were getting, I ended up posting the full story. Everyone's on my side now, and her business has not only shut down temporarily, but imploded full time. Update 2. To get back at me, Lainey tried to sue for the destruction of private property. For my shenanigans with the truck, I guess. Dad took one look at the papers, called Lainey, and told her he was more than willing to do the same thing. That shut her up real quick. Update 3. The post is resolved, guys, but I just wanted to tell everyone something. My birthday was yesterday, and my dad, he dug through the scraps of paper that were in the cardboard box and found my letter. He painstakingly put it together, and I got a chance to read it. I feel so grateful. It's almost as if Mom was speaking to us from beyond the grave. Dad's letter, though, I think it ended up getting burnt. Lainey's gone back out of state, and good riddance for that. NTA, but your actions were risky. You could have hurt someone, and you're dumb for the truck thing. It would have been better to just tell her parents calmly. NTA, and I understand where you're coming from with your anger. I'm happy that you got to read your letter, and remember that those trinkets did keep your mom in your hearts. That's all. Next story. I am a mid-30s man who was adopted when I was young. Now, my biological mom went on to have another child long after I was adopted, and this situation concerns my biological half-sister Kate, mid-20s, and her daughter Lindsay, 5 to 6-ish. There was a messy situation a few years ago where Kate was given my contact information and reached out and wanted to get to know me. We had never met, and I was unaware of her existence up until that point. I answered a few questions and told her the little bit of info I knew about our shared biological family, but told her I wasn't really interested in opening up the past and meeting up or anything more. She didn't take it well, but I stood my decision. A few months ago, I was reached out to by the state Kate lived in, telling me that she had died in a car accident, and they were seeking a place for Lindsay with family. Apparently, someone from Kate's life knew about me and was able to get my contact info. I was very sorry to hear about this, but I declined taking custody of Lindsay. My wife and I have never wanted children, and I have never even seen a picture of this child, let alone met them. Since then, members of both mine and my wife's family have been attacking us, more specifically me, for not taking in Lindsay. They've called me a monster and shameless and pathetic for turning my back on family, not accepting responsibility, and for abandoning a child to the system. The general consensus is that because my wife and I could take in Lindsay, we are morally obligated to. I understand their argument, but here's ours. Aside from sharing a biological mom, I had zero connection to Kate and her daughter, and personally, I believe family is something you choose and build. A thin biological thread doesn't tie me to them any more than anyone else in the rest of the world. I understand it's a tough life in foster care, but why am I any more responsible for the child than any other child that needs a home? Unless these members of our families are claiming that every childless couple is morally obligated to take in a child, I don't think they have a leg to stand on. Lastly, my wife and I operate a small animal rescue shelter. We help rescue dogs and cats, and occasionally other animals in the area, and set them up with permanent homes. This takes a huge amount of time and energy, and money, and often exhausts us to the point that we recently had to make a deliberate choice to throttle back just a bit on the animal care as we were both burnt out. If we took on any child, let alone one that is going to need extra help and attention, there is absolutely no way the rescue could continue to exist, and frankly, that's not an option in my mind. But even so, I don't think the existence of the rescue should really matter in this decision, but I did feel like I should mention it. So am I the a-hole some of my family say I am? Edit. I don't know if this will change anything, but to address a few comments I have seen and a few messages I've received. Neither Kate nor I raised by our biological parents. Our mother had a habit of abusing drugs and hanging out with sex offenders, so we were both taken up by the state. This situation ensured that I never had the desire to meet my biological family, as I do not particularly want to open up and explore that aspect of my past. This was never Kate's fault, but I was not interested in getting to know her. I never ghosted her. I simply explained my position and said that I would like to keep the past behind me and not really reconnect with any of my biological family. NTA, the ones criticizing you aren't stepping up? Isn't that odd? Maybe this should be a suggestion for them. DNA doesn't make family. You don't even know this girl and barely knew her mother. Now, it will suck for the kid in the foster system, but she has another actual family. They should be the ones handling this. Next story. I, female, lost my 1-year-old baby, bad heart formation, 3 months ago. After a lot of therapy, I finally decided to sell the clothes, toys, crib, feeding chair, etc. Before you criticize the fact that I'm selling, some people in my town take donations of expensive baby stuff to sell to others, and I didn't feel comfortable donating, that's all. I just wanted to get rid of it. Most things were not gifts. I bought it, single mother here, and it's all a good brand. They were never used. My baby girl was in the hospital all her life, so crib, bassinet, clothes for 1 to 12 months, toys, high chair, everything wasn't even used. I just keep the custom stuff. Everything was 1/3 of the value it was in a regular store because I just wanted to sell quickly. I posted all the items on Insta, and a friend, Sarah, who is 4 months pregnant with a girl, said she was interested in buying everything. Talking with her, she said that she would check with her husband to see if he would release the money, because despite being a high price, it would be much cheaper than in the store. I gave preference to her since she was interested in everything. 3 days without any response. I sent a message. She said they were planning and waiting for her husband's payment to make this purchase and asked to wait another 2 days. It passed and nothing. A person sent a message on the 6th day saying that he was interested in buying everything. I waited as long as my friend asked, and I didn't send a message. After all, she was the one who was interested. I ended up selling it to this person who picked everything up the next day. My friend didn't text. 2 days after having sold everything, she told me that she had delayed her husband's payment and that she could finally pay it right. When I said that I had already sold everything, she started freaking out, saying that she had asked to wait because she wanted to, and I still sold it to a total stranger. Even though I said I waited as long as she asked, and she didn't even text to let me know, she said I might as well have asked her if everything was okay. Well, now she made a post on Facebook saying that a friend was selling baby stuff instead of donating, and that even though she asked to wait, the friend sold it to someone, and everyone defending her and criticizing me. I didn't think I was wrong. After all, who wants to go after it? But this publication made me insecure. I just wanted to sell it soon because it hurt to see these things. She knew that. AITA? One of the reasons I didn't want to mention, but I will because some people said it would be better to donate everything if I wanted to get rid of it so much. I had expenses at the hospital because despite being public health in my country, some medicines were in short supply and I had to pay. They were extremely expensive. Also, I have to keep 3 consultations a week with a psychologist for now. 1 visit a month with a psychiatrist in addition to depression and anxiety medication. That money, I'll never get it back, and I don't care. But if somehow I can help just to help my mental health, I know my daughter would want it in heaven. NTA, sorry for your loss. I think you gave more than enough time. She even said 2 more days with no response after you already gave her more time. Even if you would have written to her to say you had another buyer, she would have probably just asked for more time again. And who knows if she was definitely going to take it or not. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.